everybody, Wannabe Reviewer here, and welcome back to the podcast, episode 3. I don't know if it's noticeable, but I'm actually feeling a bit, not under the weather. It's just my throat is a little sore. So hopefully if you're listening to this, it doesn't sound too bad. Maybe the power of editing magic will make it sound better. But yeah, I don't know. Just want to throw that out there in case I sound weird. Before we start today's episode, I just wanted to give a quick shout out, not only to all the people who continue to support this podcast and continue watching it, because I am very grateful, but I also wanted to give a quick shout out to those who have left some positive feedback for my sister. For anyone who doesn't know, she was actually on last week for episode 2 as a guest star sort of thing, and she was really nervous. She, has never really been online like that. And she actually had a really fun time. And she saw, I showed her some of your guys' positive feedback and your guys' kind words, and she really appreciates it. She wanted me to let you guys know that she really appreciates it. She wanted me to pass that on. And yeah, she had a fun time, and she said that she would be interested in coming out as a guest star again. So I think that's really great, and I'm really thankful to you guys for that, for making her feel welcome. With that being said, let's dive into my week, I guess. And the first thing I want to talk about, as always, is the anime I watched. And wow, the anime I watched, I don't know if this season is just full of weird shows, or if I somehow have just happened to gravitate towards all the weird shows somehow. But for some reason, I watched a handful of anime, and all of them can be described as weird in one way or another, which you'll see what I mean. The first anime I want to talk about is called Skullface Bookseller Honda-san, and just as the title implies, it's about a skull face, it's about a skeleton who works as a bookseller. In this case, they work at a manga store, and it is a very strange anime. What comes to my mind is that the same way Agretzko was about cute animals in an office and it was all about work politics, this anime kind of seems to touch upon retail, if that makes sense, retail experience. I don't know if any of you out there have ever worked retail, but I actually worked in an electronics store for a couple of years. And let me tell you, working retail is pretty interesting. I mean, you come away with all these crazy stories, all these weird people you run into with crazy demands, and this kind of touches upon that, and it kind of gave me a bit of flashbacks to that. Basically, it's a world where, I guess for whatever reason, these monster people run a manga store, and the main character is this skeleton. I'm not sure if he's a boy or a girl. I want to say he's a boy, but yeah, he just deals with all sorts of stuff. In the first episode, he deals with a foreign guy who's trying to buy some hentai for his daughter. And it's really weird because Honda-san is super embarrassed. And even though it's as a skeleton, there's not that much facial expressions, you can still tell from his voice and from the sweat dripping down his skull that he's super embarrassed, trying to explain to this guy that they don't have what he's looking for. So that was really funny. And then in the second part, it was all about Honda-san dealing with yaoi fangirls and trying to sell them boy love visual novels and manga because they can't get enough of it. All of them are foreign and they're there just for that. And yeah, it's a pretty funny show. Not only does it deal with retail, like I said, I think you can really relate to it, but it's really funny. It's really out there. The animation's kind of weird, I'll admit. It feels a bit stiff. However, it kind of works for the show because each episode is only 13 minutes. It involves a skeleton, so it's not like there's supposed to be a lot of facial expressions and stuff anyway. So even though the animation's a little rigid, I think it works for this. And yeah, I definitely recommend it. I thought it was really funny. I definitely look forward to seeing more episodes. Moving on, another anime that I watched was called Zombieland Saga. And Zombieland Saga, I don't even know how to describe it. Honestly, I think out of all the anime I'm going to talk about today, it's probably the strangest one. Basically, it boils down to being a zombie idol anime, which if that sounds weird to you, trust me, it's super weird. The anime opens with this girl being really happy because she's gonna mail in, I don't know if it's some sort of a contract or an audition tape or something, but something having to do with an idol group because she's watching it on TV. And basically, as soon as she steps out of her house, like 1 minute into the episode, she gets run over by a truck and dies. And when she comes to, this guy with like sunglasses and what I can best describe as like a waiter looking uniform or whatever, he basically says like, yeah, you're a zombie now. And it's super weird because she's trying to come to terms with the fact that she died and how she came back to life and stuff. And basically he brushes all that aside and he's like, no, let's focus on the important part. You're in this idol group now, and you and all these other girls are gonna save the idol business or something like that. Like, I don't know. It's just like really strange. And basically he introduces her to the rest of her like group mates, but the rest are like literal zombies with like no consciousness. They're just shuffling around randomly, you know, biting on things. And she's like nervous because she doesn't know like how they're going to run an idol group. And he's like, it's okay, you know, they'll awaken and they'll gain their consciousness back eventually. In the meantime, like, you're the leader. And so she's super nervous, and they have this concert, like, at some, like, bar or something. And it's weird because I guess since all these girls used to be musicians in their past life, you know, before they got resurrected as zombies, when music starts playing, they start growling and headbanging. And so their first concert is a success somehow. And that's kind of where it ends. And I don't really know what to expect. I mean, hopefully it continues to be interesting. Hopefully it'll be funny. I don't know. It's just really weird, really out there. Do I recommend it? I mean, I guess because it's really different. It's probably unlike anything you've ever seen. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, I guess I'd recommend it. I mean, I don't know. It's just a very strange show, but it like super got my attention with how weird it is. So the next show I want to talk about is one that I've actually been anticipating for a long time. I had been waiting for the new part to drop ever since the last part ended, and that is JoJo Part 5. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Vento Aureo, which is Golden Win. And basically, for anyone who doesn't know about JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, kind of a difficult anime series to explain because it's been around for a long time and there's so much into it. But basically, to summarize, JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is this anthology about this bloodline, you know, this family. And in each part, each story focuses on a different protagonist who their, not their initials, but like their name, you know, like the first part of their name, their last part of their name, it can basically be shortened down to JoJo. And so each one, their nickname is JoJo. And as the title states, they have bizarre adventures where they just get into all sorts of crazy situations. In this latest part, I mean, I read the manga, so I kind of know what to expect. But basically, this part takes place in Italy. It's going to be like a crime drama sort of thing. There's going to be a lot of crazy stand battles. Stands are kind of like personas, where they're like this entity that kind of represents like your inner self. And it has all sorts of crazy powers. And basically, yeah, this part is all about being in Italy with the new protagonist. It's going to be like a crime drama. There's going to be probably some of the craziest stands to date. And so, yeah, I've watched the first episode and animation's really good. Voice acting's great. Watching all the stands in action, you know, like watching the stands animated is awesome and really interesting. And I really look forward to this season. I mean, like I said, I've been looking forward to it since part 4 ended. And yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun. If you haven't seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like I said, it's kind of hard to summarize. You kind of need to do a little bit of research because it's just been around for so long. There's just so much to it. But I definitely recommend it. I think that if you've kind of heard of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure before and you've been kind of wondering if you should check it out, I say do it, but make sure you start on part 1. Because while the parts aren't like directly connected all the time, it's more fun if you watch, you know, it unfold chronologically or whatever. But yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with the first episode and I'm looking forward to this season. So that's that. The next anime I want to talk about is one that's called That Time I Was Reincarnated as a Slime, which is a super weird title. And once again, following the trend of animes I've been watching lately, it has a really weird premise. Basically, it's this anime starts like in the present day. There's a 37-year-old like businessman. He has a normal life, but he's happy. And one day when he is meeting his junior from work, I guess because the junior wants to introduce his girlfriend, it looks like maybe they're going to get married, that kind of thing. They're going to go eat when a robber with a knife starts running down the street, and he has the knife aimed at this guy's junior coworker. So our protagonist basically, jumps in the way, gets stabbed instead to save his, junior coworker. And as he's dying, he's saying all these different things, like how he feels hot, how he feels cold, how he wants the pain to go away. He's thinking back on his life a little bit about how he's like a 37-year-old virgin. And he's like, man, if 30 years old makes you a wizard, I was almost at 40, which would have made me a sage. And as he's like thinking all these thoughts, for whatever reason, there's like this weird like computer system, like analyzing everything he's saying and like inputting the data. And so when he dies, he's reincarnated in another world as like a slime. I mean, I don't know why a slime, but basically everything he said just added up into him being reborn as a slime. That's like really powerful. I mean, he might have like a little weird blobby body, but apparently he's like resistant to cold and heat and pain, and he has like a lot of magic power and stuff. And so yeah, the first episode's just about him coming to terms with the fact that he reincarnated as this new form. And it's all about him like befriending this dragon that's hanging out in the cave where he was reborn. And yeah, it's just really weird, but it seems really fun so far. It's basically gonna be like an isekai, which are like, stuck in another world animes, but it has promise that unlike other ones where it's just like some teenager running around in an RPG world and, he has like a harem or whatever, it looks interesting because like number one, the protagonist is a little slime creature, and number two, it has the mind of a 37-year-old, it's an adult. So I don't know. I mean, will it be good? I mean, hopefully. I know that people in forums and stuff, before it was going to come out, I saw a lot of positive buzz about people looking forward to this. So, I mean, I hope it continues to be good. The first episode was funny and it was interesting. So, I mean, only time will tell, but for now, I do recommend it, I have no reason to not recommend it. So for now, I do recommend it. Finally, the last anime I want to talk about is actually an anime I talked about last week, and that's Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai. If you watched last week's episode, you'll remember that I described this as the anime with the weird picture where it has like a bunny girl. The picture plus the description makes it sound like it might be like this ecchi comedy, but it actually had like this really good story that's mysterious. And yeah, episode 2 was also really good. Basically, it continues to build off of the premise of, everyone's forgetting this girl, nobody can see her, and, you don't really know why, so it continues to build up on that. The relationship between the bunny girl and the protagonist continues forward, and it's really cool because unlike other anime where people are really afraid to, like, talk about their feelings and stuff, here it's cool because they're really open about it, you know what I mean? Like, he isn't afraid to say that he has, like, feelings for her and he's, like, attracted to her. She's not afraid to say that she really leans on him because of how he can see her and stuff, you know what I mean? They even go out, like, on a date in the episode, and yeah, like, their romance is cute, you know what I mean? Like, you root for them as a couple. Like, they seem like they do good together and, like, they, belong together. And so, yeah, so far, 2 episodes in, still really enjoying it. Continues to be mysterious, continues to have a little cute romance, and it kind of has like this sense of melancholy around it, which is really interesting. So I continue to recommend it. And yeah, I hope it continues with this quality because, I mean, unfortunately, some anime kind of get to the halfway point or even near the end and they kind of, start going down in quality and stupid stuff starts happening. But so far, I'm enjoying this. So moving on to stuff I played, I did play quite a few things this week, surprisingly. First of all, I played Marvel's Spider-Man for PS4. While I had already beat the game before, I wanted to go through and 100% the game and hopefully get the Platinum Trophy. And so, I put my mind to it, and that's what I did. And yeah, I really enjoyed this game. From beginning to end, I loved everything about it. The gameplay's great, the references and little Easter eggs and the environment is awesome to, play through, and the story is awesome, you know what I mean? Like I said in my review, if you guys watched it, the fact that this story for this game is so cinematic, while stuff like Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 were so blah, like, it's kind of sad, you know what I mean? Like, Sony really needs to get their stuff together, you know what I mean? The story for this is awesome. So, yeah, from beginning to end, I enjoyed every minute of this game, and I even enjoyed getting the trophies, surprisingly. for a lot of games, trying to get the trophies is really annoying, and sometimes it has a lot of grinding involved, or it has annoying stuff like multiplayer online that you have to do, that kind of thing. But here, all of the trophies were really manageable, and getting them just felt natural. So, yeah, I had a lot of fun with the game. Like I said, I recommend it to anyone who has a PS4. I think this is a must-have title. Moving on, I also played Super Mario Party. That came out last week, and I was actually waiting for my copy to come in the mail while I was recording the podcast. And yeah, since then I've played a bit of it, and I've enjoyed it so far. I've been really looking forward to a game that I guess you can say went back to the basics, away from all the everybody rides in one cart sort of thing. And yeah, luckily this game goes back to the basics. Everyone's, walking around individually. And so far, it is a lot of fun. And I've been having a good time with it. The mini games are great. The character selection is really cool. They added a bunch of characters. And they even added in some new features that I enjoyed. Like there's this feature called Ally Spaces, where basically if you land on that space, any character who's not currently in the game will follow you around and help you out with stuff. They'll add to your total number of moves, you know what I mean? So that's really fun, having a little buddy follow you around. And then another thing that they added was the custom dice for each character. And that's really cool because it's basically this risk reward system where you can either choose to roll your regular die, which is, numbered 1 through 6, or you can try to roll the custom die. And like I said, for each character, it depends. So for instance, if you're playing as Rosalina, which I did for a round, her die is I forget exactly what numbers are in the middle, but I know on the high end, it has an 8, which, a regular dice doesn't go that high, it goes to 6. So if you get an 8, that's a pretty big advantage. But then on the low side, instead of a 1, it has a +2 coins. So if you get that, you get 2 coins, but you move 0 spots. You know what I mean? So basically, the risk reward thing is, do I roll a regular die and go, if I'm lucky, a maximum of 6 spaces? Or do I go for this custom dice where the maximum, if I'm lucky, could be 8 spaces? And that's basically the way it works for all the characters, where they have different numbers and different values. And so it's kind of trying to weigh your options of, should I go for a regular die or should I go for the custom die? And yeah, I thought that was actually really fun. Trying to make the decision about which one to go to was actually, it actually makes you think a little bit. So I thought that was really cool. The mini games are fun. The only thing I don't like is that from what I've seen so far, battle mini games are just these little weird mini games that involve the Rumble feature. That's it. Not only are they few and far between, but they're all weird Rumble games, which is kind of boring and not that great. But besides that, all the other mini games have been really fun. The different modes, I checked them out. They're all right. So yeah, I definitely would say Super Mario Party is worth a look. It's not the best game. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but I would give it easily a 7 out of 10. I think it's worth a look, and it's definitely really fun, as always, especially if you're playing with other people, So yeah, I'm glad that Mario is finally back on track, so to speak, and moving away from all that stuff that people didn't like, Moving on, the last game that I played this week is The Missing, also known as The Missing, JJ Macfield and the Island of Memories. And if anyone watched last week's episode, it's the game that I said was by Swery, and it is really good, actually. I don't want to sound like I'm surprised, because I was pretty sure it would be good, because it's coming from Swery, who makes some really good stuff. But what I mean by sounding surprised, if I sound surprised, what I think is so interesting is that, yes, it is a puzzle platformer in the style of Limbo. However, it has these really interesting mechanics, and the way it kind of unravels the story as you play is really interesting. Basically, the game is about a girl named JJ. I forget what her name is, maybe Jennifer, doesn't matter. And basically, the game starts with JJ and this other girl named Emily, and they're camping together. And while at first, I don't remember if it was that super explicit, it looks like it's her girlfriend or something, or they have feelings for each other, some sort of thing. And, they go to bed for the night, and when she wakes up, Emily's missing, and so she goes looking for her. And so you're running around the woods, you're running around through this field of flowers, all sorts of stuff. And then at one point, JJ gets struck by lightning, and so her body is just lying on the ground, all, charred to a crisp. and all these like forest animals are just looking at her. But then she like wills herself back to life, and that basically becomes a game mechanic, which is where it gets really interesting. So basically what you can do in this game that makes it like, I would say, really unique versus other games like it, is that you can choose when to hurt yourself or regenerate. So basically, let's say there's like a puzzle where there's like a wooden beam, right? And you're trying to get to like a floor higher than yourself. Like, how can I describe it? Yeah, that is a good way to describe it. Yeah. So there's like a wooden beam, and obviously, you know, it's like weighted. So if you stand on one end, you know, it raises up. And so if you're trying to get to like the floor above you, you know, you have to put something to weigh it down so you can walk across the beam and walk higher. And basically what you have to do is you have to choose to purposely hurt yourself so that her limbs come off. And then you put her limbs on one side of the wooden beam to weigh it down so that the rest of the body can make its way across the beam and get to the other side. And then once you get to the other side, you just regenerate and like you're fine. So yeah, it's really weird because you basically have to play around with messing with your body, and it's just really strange to describe. Like there's another part where there's like a lantern that you drop and it makes like some grass catch fire, but then there's like some vines like a little ways off that you need to burn. So basically the way to solve like that puzzle, so to speak, is you make JJ catch fire and then you run into the vines so that they, you know, wither away. And then after, you know, JJ goes through her whole animation of her body, you know, like getting like disintegrated or whatever, you regenerate and then you keep going. And so, yeah, like I said, it's just a very strange game because you got to play with the physics, not only of the puzzles, but you also got to mess with and manage when you hurt yourself and regenerate, which is really weird. And then, like I said, the story is also really interesting because it kind of unravels as you play the game. And some of that is like you have your phone with you and she gets text messages from people. And there's like this story kind of showing that she's like a college student and different people in her life and her going through life and dealing with things. And like, I don't want to spoil it, but like I said, the story starts opening up slowly as you progress. And it's really interesting, honestly. I'm really proud of Swery. You know, he makes some good stuff. And once again, he doesn't disappoint. He really brought something interesting to this genre, which I think is really great. And I honestly really recommend the game. I got it for Switch. However, it's out on Switch, PS4, Steam. I don't know if it's out for Xbox One. I actually forget. But yeah, it's a really good game. Costs like $30, which might be a little expensive for some people, but I definitely think it's worth it. I've had a good time with it so far. I definitely recommend it. Yeah, like right there, I don't know if you guys can hear my voice is kind of failing me a little bit, but just gotta push through it, I guess. Moving on, I actually did watch a movie this week, and if any of you saw the review on my channel, the movie I watched was Venom. And yeah, it's really funny because last week I was talking about how I expected it to be this trash fire. I expected it to be a failure and not be any good. And the funny part is that while the movie isn't great and it has a lot of issues, it's actually a lot of fun. Like, I'll admit it. I had a lot of fun watching it, and it has a lot of funny stuff in it. I mean, anything revolving around Tom Hardy and, you know, as Eddie Brock and Venom, like that relationship with Eddie Brock and Venom is great. Even though the movie sells itself, you know, the trailers sell it as like this dark body horror monster movie, like it's not. It's actually more of like a buddy cop comedy where it's basically Eddie Brock and Venom teaming up to, you know, kick ass, you know, basically. And there's just all these interactions between them that's really funny because they're trying to learn how to cope with being in the same body, and the fact that, you know, Venom's an alien and Eddie Brock's just this normal dude, and they're trying to learn how to deal with each other. And it's really funny, honestly. It has like really good moments. The interactions between them are great. And it's unfortunate though, because the rest of the movie's really bad. Like the story's boring, the other characters are forgettable, the main villain doesn't even feel threatening, for instance, that kind of thing. There's characters who like we never get their names because they're just not that important. So it's a shame that it's really good characters in a really bad movie. However, they kind of save it, you know what I mean? Venom is saved by Tom Hardy's performance because it's a lot of fun. And I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't suggest rushing out to watch it, but if someone invites you to watch it, or if you have, you know, like a chance to watch it as like a matinee or something, I would say go ahead. I think you'll have fun. This one ends with a really interesting stinger that introduces who the next villain might be. And I don't know, hopefully they fix the next one by having an interesting villain and fixing up the story a bit. Because yeah, I mean, like I do see the potential. If they have like a good villain and they fix up some of the story stuff that was messed up here, I mean, it has potential. So I don't know. I guess we'll see how that goes, you know? But yeah, if you guys want more information, you can go watch the review on my channel. It is a spoiler-free review, but I still talk about like the positives and negatives. So anyone who's interested can go watch that. And that's basically it for my week. Let's see. Yeah, that's basically it for my week. Watched some anime, played some games, watched the movie. It was actually a really busy week compared to other weeks. Moving on though, let's get into the news. The first story that I want to talk about for the news is that Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle is coming to the Switch. So for anyone who doesn't know, Friday the 13th Killer Puzzle is like a little puzzle game that originally came out on phones and I think Steam. I forget if it came out on Steam. But yeah, it's basically this little puzzle game where you play as Jason and you basically navigate around these little boards and there's traps and there's people to kill and there's obstacles and stuff. And basically you have like a certain number of moves to make and you have to like avoid the obstacles and stuff to kill the people. And it's really interesting actually. It's actually pretty, like it kind of makes you think, you know, because it's a puzzle game. And I actually played it when it came out on my phone and I thought it was really enjoyable. It's a fun little game, has a lot of references to the movie that are fun. Jason's mom talks to him a lot throughout the game and she gives him like all these like tips and stuff, and it's always really funny because she'll say stuff like, kill them all, Jason, make them suffer for how they made my special little boy go through so much or whatever. And then you just click the thing where it's supposed to be him replying to her and just says like, yes, mom. Or she'll say like, oh, this stage is cold, Jason. Don't forget to stay bundled up. And then he'll be like, I will, mom. And just stuff like that. That's like really funny. Like it's really goofy. It is like a little bit gory, but it does have the option to turn the gore on and off, which is interesting. And yeah, it's just a fun little game. It's on the silly side. Like I said, even though it has some gore, it's more about the puzzle and the strategy and stuff. And yeah, it's coming to the Switch on October 25th. And I would recommend playing it. I still think that it's an interesting game to play. I would say check it out. I recommend it. Similarly, I would also recommend this port that I'm about to talk about, which is Guacamelee. For anyone who doesn't know, Guacamelee is this little indie game. Well, at this point, it's 2 games. And basically, you're this little masked wrestler guy, and you're running around these stages that are very Metroidvania-ish. And basically, the game is like this 2D brawler / platformer. And yeah, it's very Metroidvania-ish. You get power-ups, and you go back to areas, and you're running around like maze-like levels, and it's really fun, honestly. I played it back on the PS4 when, you know, they came out, and yeah, they're coming to Switch. So right now at the moment, the first game is on Switch, and the second one, which actually came out, I want to say like a couple months ago, it's coming to the Switch in December. So for anyone who has a Switch and is wondering what cool games to add to your repertoire, there you go. Guacamelee, I recommend it. Like I said, the first one's out now, second one's coming soon. And yeah, those games are really fun. I actually recommend them. Moving on, I talked about Telltale getting shut down in the first episode of the podcast. And since then, all sorts of stuff has been happening over at Telltale. I mean, since then, even though they had said they were going to keep like 25 people on, I believe they fired everybody and no one got any severance. And it's just been like a whole mess over at that studio. However, for people who were worried about how The Walking Dead, the final season wasn't going to have an ending, luckily for you, Skybound Games has acquired Telltale's The Walking Dead, and they've said they're going to complete the final season. So, yay, you know, if you were worried about not getting to see the end of Clementine's story, luckily a different studio has taken over and they're going to finish it. I think that's good news. I think that's nice that the story will be finished. I feel like it is, I guess you can say, ode to a lot of people out there who are fans of the game. The bad part is, though, that still doesn't take away the fact that Telltale fired a bunch of people and basically treated them like crap though, so that's the unfortunate side of things. But since then though, I know a lot of people have, stretched out their hand to Telltale employees to try to offer them new jobs or give them their condolences and stuff. So I don't know, hopefully everybody who worked for Telltale lands on their feet, and who knows, maybe Skybound Games, maybe they'll bring some people on, to help them finish the game. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting that at least we know now that The Walking Dead, the final season, will have an ending. So links in the description to that story. Speaking of stuff having an ending, apparently Rambo 5, which I didn't even know was a thing, it now has a title. Rambo 5 is officially been titled Last Blood. So Rambo Last Blood. So it seems like, based on the article, which I have here in front of me, it looks like it's picking up basically where the last one ended. I'm trying to see what year the last Rambo movie came out. I don't think it says it here. But basically, yeah, a while ago, there was a movie that was called just Rambo, and that seemed like it was the end of the Rambo story. It ends with him basically finally leaving war behind him and settling down, I think, in Arizona. I think it shows him walking down, the highway, he's going home. He's going to go live, on a ranch or something. And yeah, apparently Rambo Last Blood is going to pick up right there. And as it says in the story, it has to do with him on American soil. And basically, it's going to be about him living as a rancher and trying to live peacefully, leaving his past behind him. But when some human traffickers get in his way, he'll have to, pick up being Rambo again to take them down. And yeah, it looks like this is going to be the final chapter in Rambo's story, which is interesting. Don't really know what else to say about it. I mean, I don't even know if it started production yet. I think it's just a title basically that they have and a script. But yeah, I mean, I'll check it out. I've always liked the Rambo movies. They're pretty over the top and, they're kind of crazy. But yeah, I'm interested to see how this story ends. I think it's really interesting. So I'm definitely interested in seeing how that movie goes. So yeah, hopefully this will be a good movie. So I'm looking forward to it. Another story that was in the news that I thought was interesting is that Star Wars has a live-action TV show they're going to try to launch, and it's going to be called The Mandalorian. So basically, a little background for this story. Disney has been taking stuff down from Netflix because they said they're going to start their own streaming service. And apparently part of their streaming service is that they're going to include, new movies, original Marvel TV shows, and, they're going to have some Star Wars content, I guess. And so The Mandalorian is supposed to be their first ever live action Star Wars TV show. And basically, I don't know if it's going to follow Boba Fett necessarily, but it's going to follow, either him or one of his clones. And it's going to be all about, I guess bounty hunter adventures, which is cool. And the article that I specifically have linked in the description, it's about how Taika Waititi and Bryce Dallas Howard might have parts in The Mandalorian. They've already been confirmed to direct some episodes, but there's been a rumor that they might have parts in it as well, acting parts. And I think that's really cool. Bryce Dallas Howard, honestly, I don't care too much for. She's okay, it's fine. But Taika Waititi, though, I am pretty excited for because, honestly, his part as Korg in Thor Ragnarok was I think Korg was my favorite character in Thor Ragnarok. So if we got to have some sort of other, interesting out there character played by him, I think that would be great. So even though it says here it'll probably be a small part, but honestly, I don't care. As long as we get more Taika Waititi, I think that's really fun, and I actually really look forward to that. So, I mean, will the show be good? Who knows? I mean, it seems like everyone's trying to do their own streaming thing these days, and when it comes to DC, their shows seem kind of weak. But, I mean, a Star Wars show could be good, especially if it has good talent behind it. So, I mean, I'll try to check it out, especially if Taika Waititi will be in it, so, Speaking of Disney, there's this interesting article I found earlier in the week, which says that the Disney-Fox deal is expected to close on January 1st, 2019. So for anyone who might not know, basically Disney is trying to acquire Fox and a bunch of their properties. And I think they've been going at it for like a year now, where they're trying to decide if they're going to like merge together with Disney buying Fox. And apparently, according to this article, it seems like everything is going as planned, and it seems like it will be finalized the first day of the new year, which is interesting, you know what I mean? And I mean, on the one side, that's cool because that means we might get stuff like the X-Men or Fantastic Four in the MCU. I mean, that's cool. But on the other hand, though, it's kind of weird because if Disney buys Fox, that puts them really close to monopoly levels of a corporation, you know what I mean? Like, Disney owns a lot of stuff, like more than you would think. Like they own a bunch of cable companies. They own, like ESPN, for instance. They own so much already that for them to buy Fox, that means they own like 70% of like all media companies or like something like that. You know what I mean? I'm probably exaggerating, but like maybe not. Like the point is that would be crazy because they would be in control of so much. So I don't know. That's just like a really weird story because like, well, on the one hand, like I said, it makes cool stuff possible, such as the Fantastic Four and X-Men and the MCU, and it lets them buy a lot of properties that, maybe they can do some good stuff with. On the other hand, it is kind of worrying to see this monopoly kind of taking over, so I don't really know what to think about it. It's kind of a weird situation. Speaking of scary things, I recently found out that there's going to be a Pet Semetery remake, and so I actually put the link to the trailer in the description. Apparently Pet Semetery, I had never even heard of this. I actually got really surprised. I was actually watching Jared Buckendall's channel. He was in the spotlight last week, if you guys remember, and he basically did a reaction to the Pet Semetery 2019 trailer. And I had not heard about this at all, so I was really surprised. But yeah, I mean, there you have it. There's apparently a Pet Semetery remake on the way. According to the description of the trailer, it's supposed to come out in theaters on April 5th, 2019. And yeah, I mean, the trailer seems okay. It definitely seems like, they're going... I mean, as all scary movies do, they're trying to go harder, like the new It definitely goes harder than the past It. This Pet Semetery seems like it's going to go harder than the previous one. But yeah, I mean, it seems like hopefully it's good, I mean, hopefully they pay it justice, you know what I mean? The old Pet Semetery movie is really good. So if it's like at that level, then that's a good thing. And not only that, but I think the fact that a lot of Stephen King like franchises and a lot of his books are getting like recognition again, I think that's pretty cool, because he deserves it. He definitely has like a really interesting set of work. So I don't know, I'm looking forward to it. I will try to check that out when it comes out if I remember. So like I said, you guys can watch that trailer. It's in the description below. And I believe that's it for the news this week, guys. I feel like the news was a little shorter this week than last week, but I mean, I don't know. I just feel like there wasn't as many stories this time. But yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hopefully you guys learned something new. Moving on, it's time for the content creator spotlight. And this time I have one content creator that I want to focus on. I actually forgot to look for a second one. My bad. But you know what? It's fine regardless. There's no rule that says there has to be two every week. The content creator I want to talk about this week is a pretty small channel, but it's a channel that I think he does a lot of work, and I think he does a really good job working within his niche, you know what I mean? So the content creator I want to talk about this week is Charific. And Charific is a pretty cool dude that plays basically Pokemon ROM hacks. So that's what I was saying, it's a very specific channel, but it's a really fun channel. Like if you've ever seen a ROM hack, which is basically, like a fan-made Pokemon game, like those are the type of things that he's tackling and he's playing through them. I think he's really been hitting it. I think he's really been going at it for maybe like the past year is what I kind of see from his videos. And yeah, he just has some really fun content. Like the ROM hacks that he chooses to play are really interesting. They have either really interesting stories or really interesting mechanics. And yeah, just sitting down and watching him play through the games is super chill. And it's just fun because he's just such a cool guy who just, I don't know, like the way he names his Pokemon is really funny. The fact that he includes like the little portraits of the Pokemon on the side of the screen so you can kind of see who's in his party is really interesting. Like his channel's very specific. I know it's not going to appeal to like everybody, especially like, you know, some people are fans of Pokemon, some people might not care for it. But I think that if you really enjoy Pokemon games or you enjoy, you know, Pokemon ROM hacks, I think you should check him out. I think that he's a really fun guy. Like I said, I think he's a really hard worker. He's always putting videos out like every day. In the videos, he talks about how he gets frustrated or tired, but he's still going at it. And so yeah, the link to his channel will be in the description below. Charific, if you're watching this, keep up the good work, man. I think that you have found something that is very specific, but it will work out for you because, hey, if people want to see a Pokemon ROM hack, your channel is a fun channel to watch. And not only that, guys, but honestly, like the newest game he's played, he literally has the guy who made the game commenting in his video. You know what I mean? So he has like some credibility too. It's not just some guy playing a Pokemon ROM hack. Like it's a guy playing a Pokemon ROM hack and the person who made the game is commenting on it and giving him praise for different aspects. So honestly, like I said, if it sounds like something interesting to you, check it out and give Charific your love, all right? With that being said, we bring ourselves to the end of the podcast, and my throat hurts. Like I said, I'm not feeling too good, so the fact that I was able to make it through is kind of a miracle, but I survived. Coming up on the channel, I don't have an idea yet for what my next video will be. However, based on the fact that I haven't really done an anime video in a while, I might try to make a video reviewing an older anime that I've had in mind for a while. We'll see if that gets made. I might change my mind, you know, it could happen. Besides that, as always, I just want to give thanks to anybody who watched the podcast. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment in the comment section below. Or if you have any, you know, complaints, anything you think I could do better, also leave your comment. I appreciate any and all feedback. And besides that, thank you for watching. I hope to see you again here next week. And with that being said, this has been Wannabe Reviewer. I'll see you next time.